after his wife's death, his second daughter Renuka passed away. The hardest blow of all came 4 years later. Youngest son Shomindro took after his father in many ways. He was only 13 when he fell a victim to cholera. It was in the midst of these bereavements that Rabindranath participated in one of the greatest political upheavals in the history of India. In December 1903 was published the decision of India's Governor-General Lord Curzon to split up Bengal into 2 provinces. The idea was to create a separate province with the Muslim majority, which would induce a rift between the 2 main religious groups and avert the possible growth of a united front against the government. But in proposing the partition, Curzon merely fanned the flame of patriotism that had been smouldering in the minds of certain visionaries all through the period of the Renaissance in Bengal. These men now came to the fore and led the millions to rise in protest. The series of stirring patriotic songs which Rabindranath composed for the occasion were sung in procession in the streets of Calcutta, with the poet himself in the lead. On October 16th, 1905, the partition became an accomplished fact. In a form of protest that only a poet could conceive, Rabindranath turned the black day into a mass festival of Rakhi Bandhan, the tying of the band of friendship. To grow and assume a character which was not possible to foresee in its early stages. While admitting the bravery and patriotism of those who killed or were killed in a reckless bid for freedom, Rabindranath could not condone terrorism. He stated his credo in clear terms. The path of violence was not for India. Good could come only out of constructive work carried out in a spirit of tolerance. He had himself followed up his retirement from the political scene by devoting himself to the work of rural welfare in his estates. And there were other activities too. He was teaching at school, editing journals, and engaging himself in every conceivable form of literary activity. That his own countrymen now regarded him as their leading man of letters was proved by his 50th birthday celebrations in Calcutta. Sponsored by the Bengal Academy of Letters and attended by thousands, it was a unique occasion and the first time that such an ovation had been given a literary man in India. But to the outside world, Rabindranath was still an unknown name. The object of Rabindranath's visit to England in 1912 was to study the educational methods of the West and also to acquaint the West with his own work at Shantiniketan. He happened to carry with him on this occasion a notebook containing his own English translations of some of his songs, mainly from Gitanjali. He showed these translations to the English painter William Rothenstein, who had met him on an earlier visit to India. Rothenstein was so impressed that he sent a copy of the translation to the well-known Irish poet Yeats. In introducing the poems to a gathering of English writers and intellectuals, Yeats said, "I know of no man in my time who has done anything in the English language to equal these lyrics. Even as I read them in this literal prose translations, they are exquisite in style and thought." Gitanjali was published in England in the same year. There has rarely been another instance of a poet gaining world fame in like manner. The Nobel Prize came in 1913 and the knighthood in 1915, while war was raging in Europe. Touring the United States and Japan in 1916, Rabindranath made eloquent appeals for peace. He felt that world peace could only be achieved through intellectual cooperation between nations. He said, "The call has come to every individual in the present age to prepare himself and his surroundings for the dawn of a new era, when man shall discover his soul in the spiritual unity of all human beings." Pursuing this noble idea of international cooperation, Rabindranath gave the school at Shantiniketan a new status and a new name, Yatra Vishwam Bhavati Ekaniram, where the world becomes a single nest. This was the motto of the Vishwa Bharati. It was inaugurated on the 24th of December, philosopher Brajendranath Sheel presiding. Rabindranath made over the entire Nobel Prize money towards the building of this university. While peace had been restored in Europe, in India there was unrest. The Rowlatt Bill, designed to suppress all political movements, dashed India's hopes of gaining the self-government that the British rulers had kept promising through the war years. Dominating the Indian political scene at this time was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who, as a barrister in South Africa, had fought for the rights of the Indians living in that country. As a protest against the Rowlatt Act, Gandhi launched a movement of passive resistance. But the masses misinterpreted the movement, and following a rumor of Gandhi's arrest, violence broke out in many parts of the country. As a result of this, the government started taking repressive measures out of all proportion to the magnitude of the violence. In the Punjab, martial law was declared. In charge of the troops at Amritsar was Brigadier General Dyer. On the first day of the month of Vaishakh, a crowd gathered in Jallianwala Bagh, as it had done every other year. It was a peaceful crowd, but Dyer was taking no chances. News of the Amritsar incident was suppressed by the government, but details filtered through to other parts of the country, and even to the abode of peace. Rabindranath rushed to Calcutta. But the Defence of India Act was still in force, and no leaders would support him in a plea for a meeting of protest. At 4 o'clock in the morning of May the 30th, Rabindranath finished writing a letter. It was addressed to the Viceroy. Condemning the government for the killing in the Punjab, Rabindranath ended by saying, "And I, for my part, wish to stand, shorn of all special distinctions, by the side of my countrymen, who, for their so-called insignificance, are liable to suffer degradation not fit for human beings. And these are the reasons which have painfully compelled me to ask Your Excellency to relieve me of my title of knighthood." The next 10 years of Rabindranath's life were filled with ceaseless activity. The urge to travel and the necessity to collect funds for his university took him to all parts of the world, and the West, as much as the East, welcomed him with open arms.